Good morning. This is Tenacious Earl, and it is Memorial Day. Thank you all for popping in here if you're around. If not, hopefully some people show up a little later, or we'll just watch it after the fact. It doesn't make a difference either way. Uh, we're here to provide videos about tabletop gaming, and we're going to go into that in a little bit once I get this situated. All right. Um, yeah, so I keep looking down here, and I mean to look up here. So first off, the Tenacious Dugout is usually and mostly just a place to kind of like chill. A lot of times it's to play games in here, but what I do here on the channel is more just a riff session on a bunch of different things. What I'm going to riff on after this first bit is the different projects that are going on and some stuff. I'm going to simulcast my screen here, and you guys can take a look at what's going on, what's been going on. Uh, some of it's been on the channel, some of it not. But yeah, so, and I've got something in my. All right, Memorial Day, I just have to thank anybody who has family, who have given their lives for the country. Um, you know, again, we have a day to thank our military in the fall that are actively serving or who did actively serve and are still here. But I mean, this is a day for remembering, um, all of the attacks that happen on this country. We've been going. It's not an attack of any military or anything like that, but it's still something that threatens the fabric of our nation when you have a disease that uh, you know really puts things in perspective. But with all the wars that we've had, with all of the trying to keep the world safe, there's a lot of people out there that look at our country, um, and not trying to leave anybody in other parts of the world who follow this channel. Um, I'm not trying to, but I'm just focusing right now on what we're celebrating here today in America, which is there's a lot of countries, a lot of people, a lot of sects, um, you know, zealots who over the years and today still do not like the United States of America for whatever reason. Either we're a rich country, we've tried to dictate too much foreign policy, on down the list, but there are so many people, so many good men and women um, who have just seen. Maybe they didn't at the time. It's tough to know. I mean, but they ended up paying the ultimate price, whether they knew it or not. Some of these guys were just kids, and they probably barely even knew what they were getting into at the time. Over the years, from whether it's the birth of the nation, whether it's any of the wars of 1812 or the Civil War or either of the world wars or Korea or Vietnam or over in the Middle East, you know, and there's probably some in between there too. There's a lot of people who um, have made this a country where we can be free and where we long for the days when um, something like the coronavirus will finally be a thing that we just store in our memory banks as a time where we got through it, but we appreciate our freedom And there are certain liberties that have been tested here in the last 2 months. We've kind of conceded them in ways because, not only for our own safety, but for the safety of others, um, especially the elderly. We all pretty much knew from the get-go that the elderly were pretty susceptible to this, as well as people that are struggling with immunodisorders and other serious conditions of, the pulmonary system, heart and lungs. Um, but those liberties that we enjoy even today, even in what seems like a time when we aren't given the freedom that we were able to get 6 months ago, a year ago. You know, yeah, we've got to wear a mask. Yeah, we've got to limit our ability to go and shop at whatever. Go bowling. 6 months ago, I was bowling in a league. I can't go to the bowling alley now. It's like that's not a good place to go because there's a lot of people in a small area. But we need to appreciate the freedoms we have, and we wouldn't have these if it weren't for the men and women who um, went out there and um, defended our nation, and especially the ones that defended our nation with their lives and cost their lives. So I don't know if Tabletop Earl is going to do anything like this today. He may, but I just figured I would get it out here pretty early and just say that I express my thanks to the families of those um, who perished in the line of duty, um, whether they're military, whether they're law enforcement, whether it's, in this day and age, he even thinks to an extent about maybe even the healthcare workers, although, Memorial Day is usually a day that's more along the lines of, combat and whatnot. That's combat too, and I'm not gonna draw too many lines there. There've been people who have gone through a lot, even in just the last 2 months, dealing with an extreme situation where, you just don't know. And it's kind of the same thing. Well, I don't know. I don't want to get into semantics. All I'm saying is we give our thanks to those who went before and have helped us establish a nation where we can make YouTube videos about tabletop gaming. We can sit here and play a game today and have some fun with it. And I could go on and on about what the nation means to me. I probably should, but I don't know. I'm I don't. I'm already a little bit. I don't want this to get too. There's a term from maybe 10 years ago. I don't know if people still use it. Too meta. Like I, this kind of thing is the thing that I'm not the biggest fan on YouTube about. And I'll get into just long narratives about this or that. But I'm not necessarily trying to make it about myself and what's happened in my life and all that stuff. But so just keep in mind that I'm trying to do this in a um, relatively modest way. But I just want to say thanks to them. It's you know we're getting to make videos. We're getting to interact with people. Soon we'll be able to go to tournaments again, hopefully, or the leagues that we were in. Maybe people are still doing leagues. A lot of people do leagues on the PC games, the various versions of those, or they just have gone to some. I need to get my tissues here. Some video games. But anyway, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for a lot of brave and honorable people who did serve their country and did, and some of them are you too. And again, thank you to you guys as well. But this is a day for the lost, and I hope everybody takes a few minutes here today, and even if it's only in the video here, just remember that uh, all of our freedoms, all of our ability to be who we are, and pretty much be able to do whatever the heck we want without too much hassle in life, from an oppressive government. Uh, that's because of those people. So thank you, um, again, to those families who have lost people and who have to go on day by day. Um, Granted, I hope that you guys, in your loss, understand the profound thanks. And, I think you should be very proud of what your family member did, um, because they did it for uh, an extremely wonderful cause, which is a nation of 50 states and territories, that can worship, can gather, will gather soon, I hope, um, can express themselves, has a free press. Um, anybody, anybody can succeed if given the initiative and the talent and the drive. Um, and if they are unable to do it on a fair playing field, there are organizations out there that will attempt to help them, and all of that because of what, your loved one fought for, and we just so appreciate it. So, anyway, I don't want to belabor the point. I feel like we got it taken care of, but I think 15 minutes spent talking about that is a good thing. And now I'm going to have this effect because nobody in the chat yet. That's a quite understandable. It's early. Well, it's 8 o'clock on the east, so not too early. So, all right, first off, let's go to this page. So this is my old WordPress blog. So I started at a channel called Tenacious Strat. I still tend to post comments and watch in live streams from that account. So if you see Tabletop Baseball Plus commenting in somebody else's live stream or something, or on comment in the section of somebody's comment section that it's Tabletop Baseball Plus, it's probably Tabletop Earl. I like to give him the opportunity to use that, and I like to sort of be able to identify myself, so I'm not, um, expressly commenting in a way that could, he has his opinions, I have mine. I think we share quite a few of them, but that's okay. um, but so I back in the day of Tenacious Strat, I had the desire to start up a relatively cheap and free, well, cheap equals free in this case, blog to try and take care of it. So like the last update was, I think I did this maybe in February or something like that. Does it say it at the end? This was my golf thing. That was April 24th. Wow. I must have done that. Yeah, I mean, I guess I did that on a day of enlightenment during this pandemic shutdown and whatnot. So, a couple things. Over here, like if you hit this menu, there's some things, and I've got a few pages here. Anybody who is interested in various scorekeeping type stuff. I do tend to list a lot of things on this page where you can do some different so like the TBL scorecard. I mean, I can click this and it'll come up and it'll show you. If you want to download that, go for it. Have fun with it. I don't know as I've used it in a while. Maybe I'll get back to using it soon. I have a version 2.0 here, which well, that put the little box line score down here and changed a few things. A little bit of a revamp. Oh, whoops. That's weird. Now let's go back here to scorekeeping. So anyway, there's a few different things here. Actually, I should just go on to a different page. My setup process. So this was, I wanted to go through at the time and give a tutorial. Wow, that range. Oh, okay, that didn't space right. But so this was the way I was dealing with the Strat Advanced. So this was from my first TBL. So that's the setup process. That's interesting. I should go back through and read that and see how horrible it sounds. But down here is something that's been new for a few months, and I just wanted to go through it real quick and kind of like talk about some things. So active projects. This is my project progress tracker page. I have to admit, I don't always keep it up to date, but when I do, it's this. No, I don't know. I was trying to do that Dos Equis guy. But... All right, so active projects. And this, I should really go down here and first show you inactive and abandoned, because this is where I have TBL 2.0 is here, and then that's an inactive currently. And then abandoned is Tenacious History Maker Baseball League, which was kind of like what I was calling 2.1. And so let's go back up to the top. So baseball right now, because it's kind of like the primary is in the name of the channel, and most of you are most interested in the baseball. But so the version 2.0, I put a question mark, and then the 2.1, the History Maker one, is probably abandoned, and it probably will stay that way. I'm still, so here's what I'm caught up between. I have this 2.0, which is like 60% done. There are times I feel energized to go back to doing it, and then there's other times when I feel like it's 4 months, 6 months in the past, and I've kind of like lost touch with it. I was mentioning it in the soccer video yesterday. Excuse me. So then I have the potential to do a 3.0. I have a new set I haven't even ripped apart, and I've kind of like made it up, but I'd like to get rid of one of these other ones first. And so I think I'm going to go back and start 2.0 again and just get it from 60 and see if I can make it into completion, which is going to take, it's going to take a month or two, but it's going to be a month or two until we get baseball back. And maybe by the time I finally get through this, we'll hit opening day of the next baseball season, and I can maybe pull into what I'm planning for 3.0. And I'll just riff a little bit on 3.0, what I'm thinking. So I've chosen the teams. I've done a lot of the homework. I think I've even done a schedule. Things are pretty close to, I could launch it even like right now if I wanted to. But again, I have this quandary over whether to go back to 2.0, and I think I'm going to do that. I might even play a few games today just to try and get it through. I've thought about taking the 2.0 and simulating it. I feel like that's kind of short changing myself. I like to finish things. I don't like to leave them hanging forever. And I feel like with these projects here, especially the 2.0, because I'm so far along. The 2.1, I think I got maybe 2 or 3 series in, and that's a is that an 18 series uh, season. So, and I was doing hand stats for it, which present their own. I mean, I don't want to say hurdles, just it's different. But um, the other thing I did with this 3.0 is I've also pretty much developed some Excel tables to keep the stats. So anyway, that's that's kind of where baseball stands right now. I'm just sort of like in a place between 2.0 and 3.0, and I think I'm going to go back to 2.0 and try to get that one finished up. And I believe that was the 2016 season. Um, uh, so it involves these teams right here, which these were envelopes sent to me by the statistician way back in the day. Thank you again for those. They've kind of just been hanging out for the last few months, but I think I'm going to start getting that. I need to get that back into the fold here. But then let's keep going here because we have other stuff. So, Tenacious Football League. Now this link sends you to a playlist on YouTube. So if you want to check out some videos from that, go for it. So week 13 is complete. So I started this back in 2018. So this is the 2-year mark of second season football. It's tough to believe, but I've kind of been doing about a week of gameplay every. Oh, let's see. So what is it? 24 months, and we've done 13. So we're at about a week every 2 month uh, clip there, right? Does that make sense? It's just a little quicker than that. Maybe month and 3/4 or something like that if you really wanted to get in the nitty gritty. So I'd say in the last 3 months, I've probably done. I've probably been at um, a week every month. We'll say the last, but maybe even a little quicker than that. So still targeting fourth quarter of this year to get this guy done. Hopefully, hopefully I do. I'm pretty sure I will. And what I can do here is I'm going to open up. So these are the standings after week 13, and you'll see the games played are 12 and 11. That's because we've to do Tenacious. So 9 teams in the league. That's sort of the analog to the Tenacious, which was 10. Um, um, but in order to do a 9-team league, the math doesn't work out it always has to have a bye. So, and when we do 18 weeks, that means that every team gets 2 bye weeks, and so we're on course. Things are going well here. If I can, so what does that leave us? If I want to get to fourth quarter, which is October, let's say I want to finish in October, June, July, August, September. That's 5 months, and I have 5 weeks. If I can keep it this week every month pace with Tenacious League, we should be done with the regular season by October, and then we can do playoffs, which will be a little quicker than that. So Tennessee and Oakland. So really, it's separated. And this is what I do find in my league setups, which is kind of like by design, is that you end up with a sort of like a tiered system. You get 3 or 4 at the top, you get 3 or 4 at the bottom, and then you get 1 or 2 in the middle, between 1 and 3 in the middle. And so right now we've got the top. I would even throw Kansas City. It's a top 4 right now. But I will also say that Kansas City has not played that as many on the road as they have at home. So maybe that will have an impact on them. But you've got Tennessee and Oakland 8-3 at the top. Yeah, Baltimore just a half a game behind Oakland there. Kansas City, kind of like two back right there, and then you have Jacksonville. Let me go to this screen. We'll go down to the bottom. This is what happened this week. I think I did Kansas City and Tennessee on the channel here. I don't remember, but 34-27 Tennessee over Kansas City. That extended Tennessee's lead in the standings. Baltimore beat Buffalo 27-10. We had a tie between Miami and Carolina. This was an extremely frustrating ending. And then in this last one, Oakland poured on the offense, 47-33 over Jacksonville. Both teams were churning the offense, but Oakland just turned it on in the second half. I think they only had 2 punts in the game, so that was a good one. And so we can go back here again and look at the standings. So I'm reluctant to kind of like share some mid-season or maybe three. It's almost to 3/4. This is what I'm finding. My yards per player down for almost everybody except Carolina. And if I break it down even more, if I break it down into yards per rush and yards per pass, this is where and I've talked to people, and I think this is people who've played this game. This is something that is kind of so. I got Carolina. It is improving. Let's just say it is improving. So I can see here Oakland. Oakland had a really good game this last one, and so their yards per rush and their yards per pass are up there now. So I feel like they should be a little closer than that. So I'm gonna have to take a look at this. Maybe my I have to look at my formulas here because it was definitely poorer. But see, you still have teams like Miami, Kansas City, and Chicago that are vastly underperforming in the rush. So I'm hoping here in the next few games, and it could. So recently, I've abandoned the limits that are listed in the game because of the way that I develop my teams. Michael Owens talked me through this, guy who's played quite a bit of second season over the years and is familiar with some of the discussions that have gone on regarding potential limitations of what goes on in the game. I mean, I think it's a great game, but I think if you, depending on how you play the game, if you decide it's kind of unclear unless you really think through the strategic elements of why I'm doing a game this way. If I'm just using the team sheet and playing the limits the way that they're supposed to be played, then it's going to work out the way that it's supposed to, I think. But if you're setting it up to limit players' usage through rolls like I am, so I roll a d6 to determine which players are on the field at the time. So if you're kind of like limiting a guy through that, then you should just let him continue with his limits. And I do find like Oakland and Buffalo and here Carolina is better. Who else is moving up a little bit? I feel like Baltimore's got a little better. They did better in the most recent Bills game. Oakland played Jacksonville, and Jacksonville's still woeful. But I'll tell you what, Jacksonville's running backs are kind of woeful to begin with, But they're at like a 3 yard per rush clip, which is way under what it should be. So, but yards per pass is pretty much right on the money. And net yards per attempt, good. The NEA, it's a little bit low. What that could just be is that I tend to like using the short pass a lot because it is better for possession, and I have found that the game plays more smoothly. I think when you I would say my choices of short pass are probably in the 66 to 75% range when it comes to a pass play. I'd say I choose medium, maybe 20%, and then long is probably like 5 to 10%. It's um, what I've really tried considering is that um, you know the NFL is mostly a pass possession based game anymore. It's not really run possession. And so if you get into those fourth quarters, it's really tempting to just go with the inside run, inside run, inside run. And you should limit your outside runs as well. I mean, with quarterbacks, you're going to have to do the outside run if you've got a mobile guy. Um, but it's tempting to get into that because you're going to be able to burn 40 seconds off the clock trying to run out a game. But that also impacts. So what's the other one? Oh, I have run and pass percentage calls here. Um, so I can do this based off of now. It's slightly off because if it's a pass called and the quarterback runs, and that kind of like gets figured in as a run play. But like Baltimore, all the good teams, Baltimore, Oakland. Let's see who else is low. Jacksonville's not so much. Kansas City is actually high on the pass, but those two in particular have had a lot of blowout games. Oakland, Baltimore, and that's where you see that they're under the pass differential between their actual pass percentage called versus their action versus their league simulation pass percentage called. So they're leaning more run, and that's just because they're um, and because they're it's score effects. You're going to run the ball more when you're trying to burn out the clock. Um, but you can see with some of these teams like Kansas City, the personnel really can guide you if you're looking at a team sheet. If you see lots of guys with 2 pass ratings, and then you see running backs with like B and C inside run ratings, you kind of got to say to yourself, you know what, this is not going to be very profitable for this team if I just go and run. Now, here's a team with a great running back, Chicago. I mean, Jordan Howard is great in this game as far as his stats or his ratings and stuff. But Chicago's like maybe second to last. They might be in last now. They are in last. They're second. They're 2-10. And it's one of the things in football that is an inevitable truth is that the passing game is more efficient than the running game. And if you want to be able to score, you've got to be able to pass it. Now, Chicago has Matt Barkley in there for a number of their games here recently, which he has an interception rate of, I think it's 7%, which is really bad. And that makes it tough to just go and say, I'm going to do passing because you have a fair chance of throwing an INT, which is a killer. So, some teams are just going to play bad and you have to accept it. And you have to try and play them the way you're going. Chicago is up at what, 63, 64% pass. And the reason why is, again, score effects. They're behind in a lot of games, trying to chase the game. That raises their percentage. So, we take a look at player stats real quick. I don't want to go. So Derek Carr has got up to 91.8 rating. The completion percentages are pretty decent. The ratings are a little low, and what I'm finding is that my yardage is low, and that's again probably because I'm just sorry. I was just checking to make sure my camera is working and whatnot. Everything's still good. Let me check the chat real quick. Anybody on here? There is one guy, at the chatter. Hi, how's it going, man? Maybe more. But so my yardages are low and my yards per attempt are a little low. I don't have the comparison here. And so I do think I need to be more, well, it's weird because I think my completion percentages are in a good place. They're pretty similar because I've use the short passing game well. Trouble is that the short passing game will then kind of erode away at your yards. So Derek Carr, I think he's on pace based on his attempts. So if I take his attempts as a ratio of his total attempts for 2016, and then base that multiplier on the current yards, I think it comes up to like 3,700, and he was just under 4,100 in real. So he's a little bit short on that. Which, I mean, we're already talking about yards per attempt maybe being a little bit low. I mean, it depends on the team. Some are better, some are worse. But like I was looking at Tyrod, his rating is about 10 down from the way it is, and what that is his touchdowns to interceptions. Not good. And I think one aspect of that is I think these usage limits that I was using were hurting some aspects of the game, including the passing game as things went on. You have this thing with the R rating that and if you hit an R after the guys reach that number of receptions, then that's not a catch. And early on, I was doing that. Again, I've kind of abandoned that because the way I'm using receivers, I'm letting the usage, the way they were targeted in the game, I'm letting that kind of dictate whether guys get passes, and I'm not stressing about it. If a guy gets a couple extra catches a game than what he was supposed to, I mean, what else are you supposed to do? I mean, it's, um, the game could rate him differently, I guess. DeMarco Murray leads in rushing. He's going to get over 1,000 most likely in the next game, 1,000 yards, which would be cool. LaShawn McCoy, he should get there. He needs 238, which I think Buffalo has 4 games left. Yes. So, that's probably 60 yards a game, average, just about, maybe a little, yeah, just about that. Hopefully he gets there. Jordan Howard, a little less than McCoy, but I think he also started only a couple games in. I think he wasn't used in the first 2 games of, I think this might have been his rookie year, so that was when he really came into play. Ajay doing pretty well, and Landry leading the receivers. So I don't want to go too much more into that. How long have I been on the video here? We're at 40 minutes. So let's go back to the progress tracker. So that's about enough said with the Tenacious Football League. Again, I'm going to kind of try to get either I'm going to try to do a week every month. So probably I might take a short break, or might just try maybe a game. If I do a game a week, that gets me done in a month, which is kind of a good pace to do. Keeps you from burning out on the game. All right, golf. We're in year 2 of the Tenacious Golf World. If you can see this guy over here, this was for year 1, my play cup. Very very meaningful piece of hardware there. But so we started this in May of last year, and so we're a year into this guy, and we're not. You know what? I haven't updated. I didn't put my progress in here, huh? I haven't done that. We are. Let's go here. Bury into my various folders. And it's right here. Okay, so once this fully loads, we can scroll down if we need to. So we're past event 15. So we're on the downhill slope. Now it's been a couple of weeks since I've done an event, and so that is screaming in my ear, Earl, you need to do another one. And that's true, because I not only have this, I have the Slacker Tour as well. You can see that's 3 of 12 done. So And just for giggles here, I'm going to show you my harmonized schedule. I got to close a couple of other sheets out here. So this is my harmonized schedule. So I need to get Cotton Belt done on the Slacker tour before I move on to do Carolina. So that's something I'm going to try and crank out this week offline because I prefer to do the Slacker offline. And then we would get after Carolina to the what's the our analog of the PGA Championship, and then from there it kind of just goes every week for a while. So we get to the then we'll get the playoffs, which would be nice. So we're making progress. We're making progress. It's just it's kind of slow going. There's lots of stuff to do. Let's just do. I like going through every once in a while and just seeing what else is on this page. And so some great memories here. Tenacious Baseball League version 1.0. So this kind of tells you when I really got smack dab in the middle of all of this. Is 2016. My friend Craig talked me into getting Strat, and it was fun. It's been fun ever since. There's been some downs, some ups, but usually all of the ups are when I get to play the games, and plenty of them are also just getting to spend time on the channel with you guys. But um, you know, we do have our fun. Sometimes you just have to manage how you're doing your various projects and how you get them rolling. Like a lot of it for me is a lot of the frustration at times is just feeling like it's tough to know what to do next. But yeah, I guess I didn't link. I probably should link those over on the page. There's quite a few of them from this version 1.0 over at Tenacious Strat YouTube, and I should really put the hyperlink up there. And hopefully I do, and I remember to after this is all published. So on my Facebook page back in 2016 in December, Jerry Ball, probably should anyway. Account here, Jerry Ball. Uh, he sent me a bunch of different cards, and so I picked up. In there was, um, I believe it was the 1922 Giants and was it the St. Louis Browns, I believe. So I think they were the two teams that didn't make it compared to, uh, I forget who did, but played that out, and that's over on the Tenacious Strat Facebook, Tenacious Baseball League Facebook page. There's a link to it right there if you want to go watch the games. They're still hanging out there. So a while ago, I was using basic, kind of like the Diamond Kings. And, well, here is another one. 2008 Phillies, as played, replay, and playoffs. So that we finished up TBL 1.0 in March 2017, and it took me less than a year to do the replay. It's kind of amazing that it went that quickly. I feel like if I were doing it now, it would take me a lot longer than that, but I was playing a few games offline in that project as well. So, and I was also marrying into golf. A lot of the first season of the golf, I believe, right? Let me see. October 2017, September 2018. So yeah, that was right in that stretch. So super advanced. I learned how to play the super advanced for that, and it was a lot of fun. There were some quote unquote memorable moments, and but yeah, that was good. And we did the playoffs afterwards as well, just to wrap it up. And then the Diamond Kings we just did. That was I was surprised to see it was a 9-month project, but it was started in July 2019 and finished it in March. It seemed Seemed much shorter than that, but there were some layoffs during that stretch. And then the Tenacious Golf World Year 1. The TGT video is mostly there. I think there was a point when I started going to back nines of Sunday rounds. So, and we threw the crazy Prem Cup on this list of completed projects. Finished that up yesterday. Check it out. Check out the final if you didn't see it. We streamed it live. And for continuity's sake, can I update? Oh, I'm not in edit mode, so I can't update that. Inactive projects. There's my 2.0. I think I'm going to get back to that. This isn't right. That's not right at all. Well, best way to find out. Let's open up Strat PC. 2016 Tenacious version 2. And let's look at team stats. Here we go. Is that what we want? No. We don't want team stats. We want league stats. There we go. So it's a 54 game season, and we played 30. Actually, 31 for at least a couple teams. So my phone, well, let's see. That's 5/9. So, yeah, we're 55%. I said 60. So, just need another, let's see. That's, what is that? 24 times 5. Yeah, about 118 games left in that project. So I could probably crank that out in 2 or 3 months, but see if I can get to it. See if I can get that done. All right, let's go back over here while this is prospective projects. Yeah, that's this. I kind of talk more about it than what I have listed here on the page. And we have abandoned projects. That's this History Maker Baseball League mostly. The Alt Prem is going to be too expansive. I did 8 match weeks, which is kind of neat, but that's 8 of 38, which so it's 10 games every match week, and so it gets pretty intensive. And then Stream Valley is something that's still on my mind, and we may do some more of that here one of these days. So, and I haven't even put anything with the other. What do we got here? Mark Russell, hi. Baseball Demos is putting in a vote for the TBL leagues, so yeah, that's something that is. That's something that is near and dear to my heart. I feel like it's a pretty good way to do a part, to get the feel of a full league without having to actually do a full league. Diamond Kings, so at Chatter like Diamond Kings. So angst for Phillies replay. Yeah. Have I thought about other? I mean, I was mentioning it in kind of like, say, the after show from the soccer game yesterday that there's definitely some other golf that I'd like. See, the trouble I'm having is that I get these games, and then if I get a second game, I just have trouble getting into it. Like I start a project with one game, and then if I get, like, I got Strat football, but I already had second season. I have a project going for second season. I think to myself, if I want to start doing this other game, then I really should instead be focusing on playing the project. So I get sort of wrapped up in that. But you know, I yeah, hi Philip. Yeah, the thing where it gets labeled as angst, just I think, you know, I don't know. It kind of bothers me a little bit, and I don't necessarily mean bothers from like irritates me, or I mean, well, probably irritation is probably a good word. It's not like the it's not like it makes me. I mean, I don't know. I guess the way I put it is I don't really have a whole lot of regret. I I don't know. I mean, if you aren't passionate, then what are you? I mean, and I do projects and I try not to be particularly passionate. I mean, I try to be passionate. I mean, I don't usually have a rooting interest. That one I kind of had a rooting interest. But if you don't have some kind of passion, like I mean, the things that probably are what I might regret out of that is that I think there were a couple times when maybe it was a Mets game or something and I didn't handle that in the most graceful way possible in dealing with someone in the chat, and I am not real proud of that. Um, and for that, I would say I would regret having a negative interaction with someone in the chat over that. I think the other thing that might have been a problem then, thinking back, and I don't think the person subscribes to the channel anymore, unfortunately. But again, it's in the same kind of vein where, um, I think my so this room is off of a playroom, and my son was being um, he was distracting or this or that something, and someone made a comment about the family, and I don't think I took that very well. So I mean, I haven't always had the greatest interactions, and for those uh, I don't like some of those reactions that I partook in, um, but or maybe I had lost my temper with my son over something, and it. But as far as like getting upset because a game result didn't go the way that I was hoping it would go, um, I mean, I guess I don't have too much regret over that. I mean, I've tried to avoid those situations because I think other people feel it's awkward for them maybe. So I don't know. Enjoy tournaments because of the team variety. Tough playing a favorite team when the dice seem to be unfavorable. I agree. Hour 40 minutes to roll for 6 golfers for History Maker Golf. That sounds about right. Demos is trying to stoke my fires about the New York bias thing. I mean, that was probably another aspect that ticked off some Yankee fans, maybe, and Mets fans. I don't know. I'll tell you, I haven't played strap baseball in probably 6 months, so it's kind of like the farthest thing from my mind. But um, I don't know. They buy the best players in baseball usually, and so I guess when you do that, then you tend to get a lot of good fielders as well. um, so there's that. They have a good scouting system. Maybe it's just they've got good players. I'm sure it is, but I was definitely referencing the Yankees. But um, you know, I don't have a ton of sets to know whether or not Chase Headley when he played for the Padres was a 4, and then he goes to the Yankees and he's a 2 or something. I don't have that kind of library built up at this point to be able to just take a look at, you know, Jacoby Ellsbury and how his rate. I mean, he was probably a one with Boston because he had a good range. I mean, he's a pretty good fielder, speedy. Um, it's probably guys like a guy that a friend of mine used to call Scott Atrocious. What about that guy when he goes to the Yankees? I don't know. I don't have. I probably do have a 2008 set. I know I have a 2008 set. I could probably look at Scott Brocious and see what his rating was with. I assume he was with the Yankees then, but it might have been a couple years before, after. I forget. But it's guys like that, guys like Aaron Boone, or there's a lot of different guys that are sort of like journeymen. And I mean, that's what you'd have to do if you wanted to quote unquote prove anything like that, is to say, okay, this guy played for 5 teams. For the 4 teams that he played for, was his were his fielding ratings different than when he played with New York? And they're probably about the same. So within a factor of error. So I doubt there is. I doubt that they would get into that. That's just me being my stupid self sometimes, there's I mean, it's just like Atma Chatter said here. Like when you're playing your own team, and I said in the thing yesterday, because someone was mentioning about how they liked Sheffield Wednesday, which is a championship level team in England. He likes Sheffield Wednesday and anybody that's playing Liverpool. Well, when it's kind of like the same thing with me and the Phillies, and then anybody who's playing the Yankees, which that might get me a dislike. But it's kind of like, if you're playing, and this series here, has the Yankees involved. When you're playing against the Yankees and the dice aren't rolling your way. Um, you know, I think it's. I don't think it's a. I don't believe it to be an uncommon theme in sports fandom to have fans of sports teams think that things are going against their team for a grand conspiratorial reason. I don't think this is a novel concept. Could be wrong. Maybe it's just me. If it's just me, then I'll sit here and apologize for being the only person to ever think the refs had something up, or the only person to ever think that the league didn't like their team, because I'm pretty sure that happens quite a bit. I think this is more than just me, but I could be wrong. So please. Uh, 5 handle A-Rod. Yeah. Oh, that's what I was doing. Yeah, and I mean that's so. If there's so I'm almost to an hour, but I'm gonna go ahead and just go a little longer. So the Tenacious League. Actually, I'll tell you what. If the league, if MLB goes with DH only, that probably solves my one primary problem that I feel like I have with a Tenacious League setup, and that is the disparity between the non-DH and DH teams. Whichever way you play it, one team or the other gets kind of hampered. Um, Actually, I think the non-DH teams are at a disadvantage to an extent in that kind of league setup. Either way, probably, because well, I don't know. I think there's definitely some level of. So the DH teams, they're in a disadvantage from like an ERA standpoint. So all their stats are based off of an ERA and WHIP and stuff that's based on 9 guys coming to the plate who can hit the ball. So the pitching in the DH leagues is somewhat disparate, and so you'll see the same thing if you play out of the park. And like I took on Toronto and tried to be a GM, and it's like you take Syndergaard, and there he's got a 4 ERA. It's like there's a point higher for that. But then you've got the non-DH teams who lack the depth to be able to put a consistent DH out there who is going to be productive. So, it's still a nice science experiment. It's an experiment, and you can see how it works out. In the first league that I completed, I think an NL team won. So, and that was a year that the Royals won it all. So, in real life. So, I think a lot of the attraction for 47 to 64 baseball is because so many writers. Yeah, um, sure, and you've got like what the Maris documentaries, or Billy Crystal did one, I think, on some of that, and um, yeah, so it's a nostalgic time. I think I mean, I think you can absolutely argue that 1964 on is basically the era of performance enhancement, one way or the other. It makes it kind of tough because from about that point on, regardless of steroids, everybody was on uppers. So, you know, everybody was either snorting something or popping greenies. And that kind of like casts a pall over, all of sports, really. And maybe society. Mainstream society wasn't into all that as much, but all of entertainment, you go watch the old Saturday Night Lives, they've been playing them. You think to yourself, how much powder went through that place? You know what I mean? It's like, it's amazing. And then you say to yourself, okay, and then you go watch stuff today, and it's like, are these things still a problem? And I don't know. But it does feel like when you go back and look at some of the old eras of the sport, um, it's more pure. Now you had other stuff that was going on in those eras. The the race side of things was pretty bad. um, the I'm sure there were a lot of, and probably still are a lot of womanizers and stuff. So it's not all pretty in those times, but it did seem like the sport itself was a little more pure, a little less. You don't have the expanded playoffs to let like a Florida Marlin team in that maybe whether they deserve to be there or not, and they knock off the Yankees, which makes plenty of people happy back in what, '03. But which that might be something else I bring out here on the channel today, is I might do that, finally do that game too, in that out of the park as play. I'm going to try and do. So they lost the first game to the Marlins. The Phillies did, from that 2003 season. Blake Snell, I want to get paid replay. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, it's fun to rehash old stuff. And by fun, I mean, um, I don't know. I kind of like to throw the past in the past. Um, I was also in a different spot mentally. You know, the the job side of things was a little weird at that time, and there was some stress from that too. Um, that was kind of like throwing me for a loop in certain ways, but I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to take too much time. Again, the biggest focus of this, I was hoping, would be recognizing uh, recognizing the fact that we have a free country, and that we're blessed that there are people who have sacrificed in order for us to be free and live. And so, just go out there and play some games today, spend some time with family, do whatever you plan to do, have a cookout, hit the golf ball. I don't know. I wish we could watch some baseball. That would be a great thing to do today. But, the best thing you're going to be able to do is either watch some of the games that people play here, or, go elsewhere on YouTube and find an old game and check it out or something. That's a possibility. Baseball demos mentions about NASCAR fan. I'll tell you, I've watched a couple of the I watched a couple of the races recently because it's one of the few sporting events it's on. Not a fan of the stages. I wish they would just. I mean, what they really needed to do was to put a few more commercials and caution laps in. I mean, that's what everybody's looking for is just guys going like 50 miles an hour, right? NASCAR has done a good job of sabotaging themselves for no good reason. Um, I know they like bunching the cars up. They think that's fun. No, let them run. You know what? You know what happens when you run 600 miles? Those parts in the engine they get taxed for 600 miles, and when you spend 150 of them under caution, then it's just a 450-mile race, and those parts aren't getting taxed, and things don't fail. Maybe it's also because of that. Maybe they don't like that teams are having to spend a bunch of money replacing engines and stuff. But if you want to, I mean, if you want to know why there weren't that many fans in the stands to begin with before this. So maybe that's a part of it is just they're not experiencing that much of a loss, you know? But, you know, it started going downhill when they decided to contrive a playoff. And then they decided to contrive endings with green white checkers. And then it's every decision that they've made has been to chase something that they this is what they did. They said, hi, hi, traditional NASCAR fan. Mm, that's kind of what they did from the get go. They took tracks that were popular and they went, uh. They said, we don't need you. And so guys like me who used to love NASCAR said, see ya, because I just don't have time for that anymore. I have time for it now because it's the only dang thing on television that is a sport. But as soon as one of these other leagues come back, I'll watch Formula One. I mean, at least Formula One, they don't intentionally send themselves into times where they're just running around at like 50 miles an hour. NASCAR needs about 30 New York cabs scattered around the track. They need somebody running the sport that has some level of I don't know which member of the France family ended up going to Harvard and then took over and decided that, oh, we really need the Northeast and the West Coast fans because that's basically what has done in the sport. It's like because those fans aren't really buying in that much to begin with, and to, I'll tell you what, give me a race at North Wilkesboro again. Give me a race at Rockingham. You know, they still have Martinsville. That's a great track. They still have Bristol. That one's a little too Bruton Smith for me. You know, Dover's fine. I mean, I live 15 minutes from it. But, Pocono's got a neat track. But, like Bruton Smith has taken Charlotte and like cloned it in 5 different places. And what the heck? And where he didn't clone Charlotte, he cloned dang Michigan or Daytona or whatever he wanted to clone. It's like they're all the same track. People like, I mean, North Wilkesboro was a heck of a track. It was just a small little thing, and then Richmond was another good one, and then he had to make that like a small Michigan. It's like take Michigan and make it like a mile, and so you got to make the tri-oval because that means a longer front stretch where you can put a bunch of fans on it. I mean, it's cockamamie, and it worked for him for a while. Um, I'm not really sure what was the driving force for how. I mean, well, it was Earnhardt passing away at Daytona might have been the ultimate climax of the sport, and from there, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so wow, Jester's here. He's agreeing with me about NASCAR, which is I cool. I was worried that I was kind of getting a little bit into the. I was getting a little passionate, a little. It sucks because I loved NASCAR. I loved Jeff Bodine. Jeff Bodine was my driver, and you hated Earnhardt because he was so dang good, and you knew all those guys, if they really wanted to, they could go in there and take that stinking car apart and put it back together again. And I don't think Jimmy Johnson knows what a freaking carburetor is. I don't know. These guys are not authentic. It's, Bill Elliott, his brother was his dang engine builder. I can believe that. You had Richard Petty and Cale Yarborough and all these guys that were, I mean, sure, they were probably, they're your stereotypical redneck, but they knew what cars were about. And now you get these young guys. So you take a Rick Hendrick car and you throw a guy in who's been running midgets for 5 years and he's like 19 years old and he's running up front. It's like, oh, well, that's just because he's running one of the best cars. Okay, well, I guess it doesn't take much to run one of those cars. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they're good drivers, but there's something to be said. Like that was the whole point of NASCAR, was it was a stock car, and no, they didn't look anything like. They looked a lot like the cars that you would drive down the road, or some of them, but they you knew that they weren't. But at least there was some level of idea that these guys were experts about cars, and I don't feel like it started. Jeff Gordon was the first one. I just thought to myself, man, he doesn't know a lick about how a car works. I mean, he can go out there, he knows what this does, and he knows when he puts the foot down on the pedal, what that does. But, I don't know if he knows what a turn of wedge is or any of that stuff. It's just the nature of the racing changed. And I will say Formula One, that's a lot different too, but it's at the heart still pretty similar to what it used to be, which is, classy race drivers, a lot of money, not a whole lot of limits on what they can do. There are limits, but you didn't think you aren't gonna watch a Formula One race and say to yourself, okay, I'm gonna have 4 cautions that are just gonna be like that race last night. There were cautions at the 30 lap mark. Then they have the first stage. There's a caution. Second stage. So this is at 100 laps, 200 laps, 300 laps. That's 4 cautions that they institute for no reason whatsoever besides, oh, I don't know. Well, we want to award more points. We want to give people like participation medals because, oh, they were ahead, or they were in the top 10 at like the 100 lap mark. Okay, we'll do that. Just don't stop the race. But instead they stop the race and they go slow. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm ready to find something else, but there's nothing else on TV. So I guess I keep watching because what else am I going to watch? It's disgustingly stupid. It's the stupidest thing ever. People do not, they're lucky nobody's in the stands. I don't know how anybody can sit in the stands and wait for a 10-minute caution period that was just enforced because, oh, we had a really good product and we can just suck off of that TV contract we had. Good grief. Anyway, enough about NASCAR. Thanks for bringing it up. Baseball demos. Days of Thunder and Reality? Yeah. I don't know. Give me the days. Give me the days when you like that race. I mean, and they had a weather delay, but it's like the race took an extra hour because they just have these gratuitous caution flags that make no sense whatsoever. Besides, I don't know. I mean, I remember thinking like they had who was it? Who was the guy? I think Kyle Busch run the Indy 500 and then the Coca-Cola 600? Well, I mean, literally At the 100 mark, there's a 7-lap caution. So that's each one. So that's 21 laps out of 400 that are just, and then there's probably another 5 at the 30 mark. So there's like 25 or 30 laps that are just like, who gives a crap? We're just going to run slow because, I don't know, because we think the fan is too bored with guys going around at, I mean, whatever. Amish gaming. So I hope you guys have a great Memorial Day. My family is nearly up, and Tony Stewart did. Yeah, he did. I feel like maybe Robbie Gordon was another one who did. That name seems to ring a bell, but I don't want to really look it up. But I, I think stock car racing could be a real great sport again if they would just take what they do right now, keep the Hans device so guys don't die from head-on collisions into the wall. That is a great innovation. Excellent. The flap on the top of the car that keeps you from flipping. Great innovation. Playoff system. Horrible innovation. Saying that a race can't finish under caution. Horrible innovation. Anytime a guy gets loose in the corner, caution flag. Horrible innovation. And stages where we just enforce cautions. Extremely, extremely horrible innovation. And those guys should be ashamed of themselves for taking a sport that was pretty dang interesting and turning it into a joke. And, I mean, and getting rid of any track with character, save for like Martinsville is maybe the only track left that really has any kind of character to it. I think Pocono does too. Pocono is an interesting one. I'm trying to think. There may be others out there, but there are not that many. Most of them are just speed dromes, where all it's about is, it's all about hitting the gas the whole time, maybe lifting a little bit in the corners. You know, Martinsville, still a great track. Martinsville was a place where guys would die. Like I remember watching a modified race there back when I was a kid. I wasn't at. I mean, I was watching it on TV. That was when great racing was great. When you'd see that. This guy Charlie Jazombek, he just I don't know if he had a heart attack, but it could have been his foot went open and went right straight into the wall. I mean, the banking is so low there, and that's one of the criticisms of it is it's a low bank track, and if your throttle sticks open, you're going head on into the wall, and you got no gravity to pull against you. And I mean, I think he had a heart attack, man. But that one and New Hampshire was another one that was really bad. I don't know if I assume they still race there, but that's, again, some of those racetracks, all they need is Hans, and you got guys like Earnhardt still kicking today. It's too bad that it wasn't developed before. Him and Adam Petty and I'm trying to think who the other drivers were that perished. Just these head-on collisions into the wall. Anyway, all right, I should get to rolling. I'm sitting here distracting you guys from rolling, and I'm distracting myself. Have a great day. Hopefully, I get back on here and do something. Maybe baseball, maybe some golf. We'll see. Have a good day. Enjoy this Memorial Day, where hopefully we're looking at the country continuing to open up, and we see fewer and fewer problems with the coronavirus, so that we can fully enjoy the freedoms that we have out here in the world. So thank you again to to those who've given their lives so freely, and to the families who have lost people, because we just take it for granted so often. So thanks a lot, everybody. See you. Check out ID Jester. Check out Baseball Demos. They've got channels on here. At Chatter. Philip Reynolds in the chat here. Check him out, and I'm sure there'll be lots of stuff going on today. So see you then, and God bless everybody. Enjoy your holiday.